All right, you are live. So first, please state your name and the event you were at.
I'm D. Sahay. I'm at a Solomon Brothers events co-hosted with Oris.
So D, watches are a very particular and exclusive thing. You are part of the Atlanta Watch Society. So what initially got you attracted and drawn to watches that you're such a big part of?
To be honest, it was my first job out of college. I had moved down here to take over my father's businesses, quickly realized that's not what I want to do. One of the world's biggest authorized dealers reached out to me saying like, hey, why don't you try selling diamonds and these watches? I was like, why not? And, that's kind of how Atlanta Watch Society also came about. I met the founder while I was working there and this whole lovely group of people. I love the camaraderie aspect of it, even more so than the watches. Me being a younger guy, I feel like adults don't have a lot of guilty pleasures. Watches really give professional men and women that guilty pleasure where they're stoked to be around it, talking about it. It's infectious.
Yeah, I would say infectious is a good word. And I would say that the mix of heritage, past looking, future looking, there are very few industries that rely as much on the past, but also look as much in the future at the same time. So with that being said, which either watch or moment around watches was your favorite and why? And as you could tell, we didn't pre-ask this question. That's why he stopped. He had no idea what I was going to ask him. So
Totally. I would say my favorite watch brand is Grand Seiko. I'll just put it out there. I'm a big anime nerd, love that Japanese culture. My favorite moment in working with watches or dealing around watches was when I met John Carlo, the founder of Atlanta Watch Society's youngest or eldest son, John Marco. He asked me to explain to him how a spring drive works. It's complicated movements in the world, but we spent an hour really developing that.
it took 20 years for them to produce that movement?
Roughly, yes. No, it was such a value prop in the watch world when so many companies have been doing the same thing over and over again. I really like the watches and brands that stick out, that are doing something different, like Oris, hence why I'm here today.
For sure. I love it. So what are you wearing right now?
A Grand Seiko. Yes. So this is an SPGY 007 called the Omiwatari. The dial is supposed to look like the surface of a frozen lake.
That in itself is its own business.
Totally. The level of attention and care the Japanese put into almost anything, it blows my mind. It's like, why would I not be a buyer and a big fan?
And I love this. And just for the record, this is the first one we've done. And he didn't say Swiss, which I'm thrilled about. So D, love you, bud. I appreciate you being here. Any last word? Because, man, you're live on the radio. Sell something, do something.
Well, thank you for having me, Nick. Where I'm currently working is UHY. We're a top 25 public accounting firm. If anyone has any questions related to accounting or finance, please reach out by all means.
How do I not pay sales tax on my $30,000?
Not the guy for that.
Thank you. First, please state your name.
My name is Malav. I actually live in Alpharetta. I live down the street from Solomon Brothers. So yeah, we've been coming here for years. I actually bought my engagement ring for my wife from here years ago.
So we're talking watches. The easiest way I could start this is obviously you've been attracted to a lot of things about watches. What hooked you in first, and why is it something so enduring in your?
I believe that watches are very personal. It's the craftsmanship that goes into making a good watch. It's very personal. I think watches, they mean something different to everyone. My first watch was a Seiko watch, which is not something you would associate with luxury, but it's still my favorite watch to wear. I wear it almost every day. And then my wife got me a vintage Rolex as a wedding gift. She has a Cartier. And here we are buying some more watches.
If you look, like, cars are personal, but the amount of car brands have been weeded down to so few. There's this watch brand with some manufacturer that pops up every day.
Yes.
The amount of micro brands, the amount of people who started, Joe Jetta has jumped from like 20 different brands he's making. There's still something so enduring about it. And I think it has to do with the psychology of time, being on time. But I think it's also that, like, you wear it for the people that know about it. So that being said, what either is your favorite watch that you've ever worn, been around, or what is your favorite?
I wouldn't say, that's such a loaded question, because I love so many watches. Yes. I think out of all the watches that I personally have, the watch that I got as my wedding gift, it's a vintage 1967 Rolex Oyster Date. And I actually put it on a NATO strap, on a cloth strap. I wear it all the time. It just has such a deep meaning to me. That's my favorite watch. Exactly.
If you were on a trip and you bought that at a gypsy flea market, it probably wouldn't have the same.
Absolutely.
Of a watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't listen to the hype. Go with what you're attracted to. Go with what you like. Look into a particular watch that you're a fan of. And if you like what the watch is about, then that's the one for you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much.
So first off, state your name, please, and where you are.
Yeah, David Stevens, Solomon Brothers in Alpharetta.
And David, because we talked earlier, tell me a little bit about your technological background, please.
I'm been in technology in Atlanta for about 30 years. Work in a hospitality technology company that provides technology for the high-end hotel industry.
So as a tech guy, is there something about watches being mechanical and stored you as someone who's seen the other side of it all and how the technology works?
Percent. I am a consummate tinkerer. So I have old Land Rovers that I work on. It's because they're mechanically beautiful as much as they sometimes are also problematic. That's right. Yeah. Defender series trucks. I take them apart, put them back together. Watches are the same thing. You know, I can take them apart, put them back together. Taken some classes, done a lot of that. That's a good hobby. And then certainly I do a lot of other stuff with the technology, working with, building and crafting stuff, making stuff, whether it's laser etching or whatever, so it's sort of a constant state of ADHD driven hobbies.
That's part of the rule, right? As long as you make you have it. And you know what? I've been told that ADHD is a superpower if you use it the right way, because you're high functioning and you can process data faster. It might have been a crackpot that told me that on a podcast one day. But all right. So the question is, did you evolve into your watch hobby, or did it kind of hit you overnight? What was the progress that brought you to where you are today as a watch enthusiast?
Definitely evolved. I think super unique story because everybody has it. But, my grandfather in 1988 gave me his Omega Seamaster that he had gotten when he retired from an oil company in 1971. I loved it. I appreciate it. I still have it. My wife, when we got married in 1993, 32 years, she gave me a couple of watches I still have to this day. We didn't have any money. I was a buck private in the Army. So she gave me a, inexpensive Pulsar, it's beautiful. I love it. She gave me one of my favorite watches on the planet, which is a cheap Armatron cartoon character watch that's got foghorn leghorn on it, plays music, says one of his, I still got it. And it's kind of gone from there. I've got my dad's watches after he passed, that sort of thing.
As a tinkerer, a lot of this comes out because you can mess it with yourself. And at the very least, it was an experiment. Maybe you get it working again. That's amazing. I will tell you a funny story. My grandfather immigrated from Italy in the 1950s, 60s on his kind of deathbed. He gave me a watch and he didn't know anything about it. And it was definitely a gold watch. He's like, I just get handed gold watch. New York City in the 1980s, 70s, like you were cutting mafia hair. Like you're pretty much Robert De Niro in Goodfellas. All right. So final word. So would you give any advice to people who are just coming into the watch trade so they'll make some of the mistakes you made, or to make them enjoy their experience a little bit more?
Buy what you like. Don't worry about all the hype and everything else. Just buy what speaks to you. I have watches that are orange and white and black and 50 years old, 100 years old, 1 year old. And when I see something, I'm like, I really like that. That's the one I go after. It has nothing to do with what anybody else likes because nobody else is wearing it. I am.
I love it. So before we go, I'm going to state you as a liar because you said you were going to be bad at this and you were very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
First, just state your name and where you are, please.
Yeah. So my name is Faisal Nayani, and I am here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. So we're at a watch event. Obviously, you're here because...
Yeah. So I actually founded the chapter of Red Bar Atlanta here 10 years ago now. Been a very close-knit community, and we always have other communities that pop up, and we've always networked with them. And so, yeah, been part of the Red Bar.
Why did you start it?
What's at the core of the community? I'm just going to give you my trademark tagline. For me, it's this. It's come for the watches, stay for the people. You're coming because you have a commonality, but the reason you stick around is because you make friendships that you never could have after college and high school. And that's what I love about it, is the community itself.
People, it's a very odd, pocketed place, so I agree with that completely. All right, so being that, founding a group like that, obviously there's passion points and reasons you got into this. So talk a little bit about the progression of what started you on that journey and what got you to the point where you would found something like this?
So, I always had like those weird watches as a kid, like the calculator watch, the TV watch, all that jazz. And when I was about like 13 or 14, my dad owned a jewelry store. He had a family friend give me a mechanical line, 26 millimeter, tiny, Lord Elgin. And I didn't know anything about watches, but my dad engraved my initials on it and my birthday. And I got into watches a year later. Your whole collection is built around your dad's watch. Whether you like it or not, that's just where it comes down to.
My dad told me Swiss made, and I never looked back. He bought terrible Swiss made watches, but that was what he rated me. So I never looked back.
And then what happened was the watch, we moved, it got found again, and I was already into it deep, but it kind of started there. So for me to say I've actually still owned my very first mechanical watch over 30 years later.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you said about close to the community. Obviously, you're not just community about watches. You're meeting friends. You're talking about things. What other things kind of come up? What other collectibles? Like what are people into that are things that are kind of rattling around down the watch world? Just to open the.
I mean, there's a lot of overlap. Some guys like knives and cars and whatever. But honestly, I don't even want to go in the aspect of the overlapping community. These are my brothers and sisters here. I have had advice from attorneys. I've done business deals with people that I've traded business to. I've done deals for me back and forth. If I've had a situation, somebody's coming clutch every time, no questions asked. And there are not a lot of people in this room that I can't call at 2 a.m. that they won't pick up. So for me, that it's not even about the overlap. It's literally about the people.
It's unbelievable. And one of the reasons that we're recording this now is because most people are not expecting those words to be heard. They're expecting you heard, I heard that there was an El Primero movement in Daytona. This shit doesn't make it to the trades. I thought you said it. So the last question I have. So either advice for yourself as you started your collecting journey or advice to a young person who's just on the path of getting into watches.
Well, the typical thing would be say, buy what you love. Don't buy what people want. Yeah. So, but that's something that's a typical. I'm not going there. My advice to someone in this community is absorb. There is so much information out there that a collector 15, 20, 30 years ago did not have today. And honestly, and I'm not trying to toot any horns, but the best way to do that is you go on the forums, what used to be back in the day, and then eventually you met with people occasionally. Get into these groups. You have, in our city, we have Red Bar Atlanta Watch Society. There are clubs in your cities that have these great communities where you can get together with people. And we'll have a guy in the group who is a specialist for Timex. In fact, he's actually doing their whole archive right now. But then we have a guy who is Mr. Rolex, and next thing you know, he loves micro brands. So it's all about expanding your horizons there. So I just say absorb, learn, ask questions. No question is dumb. And at the end of it, you're going to be the it person in your own community and circles as a watch person.
Yeah.
Does this strap look good? Should I buy this watch? Because now they know you as a watch person in your family circles, your church groups, whatnot.
No one cares what it is. They care how you talk about it. And you have passion behind it. I think the only thing I'll say is like most things in life require self-awareness. Know what makes you tick and don't let somebody else influence that. Learn, right?
Absolutely.
Learn the nuance behind those things. But really all it's about is when you are passionate about what you talk about, you can talk about a time because you know what? You know the tried and true, it tells better time than most Rolex. And those fourth watches do it for a reason. So, dude, I appreciate it. You were wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
So the first mistake everyone makes is if I sit there, they stare at me. I'm like, I have to look at the camera, so then I have to move over here. So name and where you are right now, please.
Steve Hardy. I'm at Solomon Brothers here in Alpharetta, looking out some watches, hanging out with some great people, having a good time.
So you told me that you were in radio. Talk a little bit about.
Let me bring on my radio voice. No, I worked in radio in North Alabama after I graduated from undergrad, and I did on-air character. I used to tour with some musicians on tour buses. It was a lot of fun, honestly. Radio is kind of a dying animal. Wait, we got to start over. I can't say that. I can't say that because you're sending it to a radio station. Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. So yes, radio is a dying animal, but I will say it, radio has been killed because of the corporate idiots that killed it.
Yeah, for sure.
Radio reaching local people, there is nothing to this day more powerful. And as we get into the world of SEO, if you now Google is taking different AI and throwing it, radio is that much more important. So you are right, sir.
Sure.
As a company, as a business plan, but as a medium, there's still nothing better. Better?
Right.
Now we're good, right?
I agree.
Okay. So give me a character voice then. You said you were
You're listening to 1061 WTAK, Huntsville's Classic Rock.
You've been listening to Extra 1063 and Legacy of Luxury.
You've been listening to Extra 106.3, Legacy of Luxury. All right. You've been listening to Extra 106.1, Legacy of Luxury.
The most important thing. So you're around. Tell me what.
Well, I've always liked to tinker. So I've always had like some type of hobby where I like to take stuff apart, learn how things work. And as I was excelling my career, I wanted to show myself some reward. So I started getting into watches, and I honestly found groups on Instagram where I could chat, and started building an Instagram page and a following. And then I found Atlanta Watch Society. I found Red Bar, and it all took off from there. And so I've been a pretty big part of the community here in Atlanta, and I love it, man. Most of my friends are in the groups.
Yeah, I love it. So as a layman or someone outside the group, what do they get wrong when they think about watch societies and things about what you guys are doing?
I think the first thing that is unique is most people don't have groups, right? Like you've got your friends, you have maybe some colleagues, you may have some
Friends through sports or people you really don't want to be around.
Exactly. Yeah. You might do like kickball, once a year or something. But the cool thing about the Watch Society is it's people from all walks of life. Everybody comes together and comes out of their shell. And for someone who's maybe introverted or just doesn't have like a really great community of people around them to, get an excuse to get out of the house and go check out some cool stuff, go to watch events. It's been an incredible community. And we do a lot of great stuff through the community. So I think that's the number one thing is like anybody is welcome.
Yeah, it's almost like, so the watches are not the primary point of all of this, right? It's probably not everyone together in the first place, but it's the camaraderie, it's the getting together. I bet you that there's a couple of people that have turned you on some hobbies you never even knew you had because you had a group of people around you.
That's exactly right. And I think when you get into a hobby, you don't realize there's other people out there that have the same passions and read the same content you read and like consume the same YouTube videos and TikToks and all of that stuff. And when you find that group of people, it really is just a great environment.
Yeah, I love it. So what watch are you wearing now? Why is that one important to you? And then we'll get a little bit into kind of some stories or things that really stood out to you in your watch.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, this is my first luxury watch. I gifted myself this after I graduated business school, and it's the blue small seconds Aquaterra. And I got this watch because one, I wanted something luxury. Two, I wanted it to be indestructible and last a long time. I also have just always like flocked to Omega when it came to vintage watches and like newer watches. So this was like my first entry into real watches, and I'll never get rid of it.
Yeah, I love it. And you bought one that you could hold on to forever. That is a nice movement that's decorated well.
Yeah.
The pearlage and everything, but at the same time, that thing can be serviced quick and it's built to last, which I love.
Yeah, they're indestructible.
It really is. And it's funny because, like, how many times do you forget to be underwater?
Exactly.
Right. What that means is anti-gravity. That means that there's no magnetic forces. There's a reason.
Yeah, this can go in an MRI machine safely.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Especially as you get older and need MRIs. But anyway, I digress. All right. So, what advice would you give either yourself when you started collecting or a young person who's just getting into collecting?
That's a great question. I think the first thing you have to realize is everybody's got an opinion, and your opinion is the most important one. You either like something or you don't. You never should let someone talk you into trying something or buying something. Every person is different. Everybody has their own unique styles that they like. And like I've got a gold bezel Tissot PRX. I've never seen anybody else wear one because one, it's kind of a niche model, but two, it's like, gold on a Tissot. Like some people would shade on that, but I love it. It's just an enjoyable watch. Like I can wear it with jeans. I can wear it, dressed up. So that's the thing is like, you're going to like certain things. Just save your money and go buy that thing. Make yourself happy. Don't worry about what everybody else is buying.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
First, just state your name and where you are.
Matt Kessler-Cleary at Solomon Brothers Jewelers in Alpharetta.
Wonderful. All right. So watch collecting is a passion point for most people here. So what about it has appealed to you the most?
I've always had like a mechanical curiosity for things, right? So cars, planes, other stuff. I mean, Certainly the style of watches has always been an appealing thing, the fashion sense of it. But really kind of diving in on like how does this work, the mechanical intricacy of it. I don't have the dexterity to ever get more than a surface level with exploring that for sure. To convince people that I know more than I do, right? It's like when you when you speak when you speak a little bit of a language and then they make people think that you actually know what you're talking about. That's my level of knowledge.
Yeah, and their butt puckers up and they tell you honestly what's going on. Yeah, I know the game. All right, so we have today Atlanta Watch Society and all these different organizations. I've heard a lot about the camaraderie about it and bringing people together. How did you get into it, and what was the moment where you realized it's something you want to commit a lot of your time and effort and energy towards?
Yeah, sure. So actually, originally from Jersey area, lived in DC for like a dozen years and moved actually, people say DC, but Virginia.
I was on 12th in Massachusetts and I went to the University of Maryland, so I spent a lot of my life in DC.
Gotcha. Yeah. So my wife and I lived between Arlington and Alexandria for a while.
Oh, beautiful
right?
place, man. Weren't they going to build a stadium right there? Weren't they going to
They
area? They were going to build a stadium there and they turned it down. They wouldn't let them do it.
I know. And I went into DC, which is probably better for DC anyway. So it worked out for them. But yeah, so eventually we just decided to move down here, Atlanta area, have some friends. And I actually, get to a certain point in life. It's like I don't work in an office in person, so I don't meet people there. Don't really meet people like going to school. We don't have kids, so we don't meet other people's parents, right? Like form that kind of community. And I was like, well, I love watches. I've known about Red Bar for a while, but never really thought, oh, I should go do that until sort of presented this opportunity to connect with people in my area. So a couple months in, like put in an application for it, met Faisal, right? Did an intro interview for it. I was like, I just really like the vibe of it. People very unpretentious, like people love watches. And I think that was part of my barrier to probably getting into it earlier is I thought like, I'm not a high-end, high money collector. Having some like anxiety about, am I going to go into these spaces and people are like, oh, what is that? Whatever you've got on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, fuck those people.
Exactly, right? But,
We can say
fair. Yeah, I am from Jersey. I know all those words. Yeah, so you kind of got connected there and realized it was just a good group of people who loved watches and it wasn't a pretentious vibe and like really got to know people beyond just the watch space. So it's like, it was a really nice entry point to actually make relationships with people that go beyond just liking watches, right? It's like when you meet people, work, school or something, you start with this like little connection point and you test out like, do I like you aside from the thing that I know we share in common? And it's been a great way
But
to
I
do
have
it.
to imagine that also that thing in common branched off to other things. And
Exactly.
you realize that one thing, and look, what you talked about, like at its core, engineering and preciseness can lead over into so many things. Like even in the business world, I prefer a well-engineered argument over like a fluttery, persuasive argument, right? Like
Yeah.
if you tell me from the beginning, middle, end, and I can follow your, even if you're completely full of shit, I would prefer that over somebody who's just trying to bullshit me.
Oh, for
So
sure.
I think that like and it's one of the common themes is that engineering and the mechanical and like the tickers, which I love. So what's on yours right now?
Jack Mason's Strata Timer. So to me, microband is still from the different ones I've tested. And side note, like I've had some access from doing reviews for it's a Time Bomb website for like the affordable space nerd. Check us out. So I've done a few like these 9075 kind of microband with GMTs, right? And I still think this is the best execution. There are some great ones.
No, crafted a lot of good
Yeah.
coverage. It's US made, right?
Yeah, assembled at least.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had to give advice to yourself whenever you started hobbying, or to somebody who's looking at this and you're like, I really want to get into hobby, what advice would you give?
Don't buy something that's a proxy of what you want, right? If you want a thing, have patience, save for it, or just acknowledge that you won't get it, but don't buy something trying to sate that desire for the thing you actually want, because you'll waste money on something that isn't what you actually want to hold on to. And you'll kind of go through like, oh, this is kind of like, I can't afford a Submariner now or ever. So let me get this other thing that looks just like it, but isn't that. It's probably not going to give you the feeling that you want from buying the thing. So just have the patience for it. Try other things. And also, we're going to throw in a second one. Don't feel like you have to comply with what people say are the cool things. Whether that's high money or even like,
Yeah.
oh, you hear
And they
about,
change fast.
right. And everybody, microbrand space, there's so much great stuff and so much turnover, like new stuff coming out, right? But you hear about these things. And I remember feeling compelled, like if I want to participate in this, like that's the one you got to get. Everybody's talking about this watch,
Yeah.
right? If it's trust your instinct on it, right? If you are only interested in it because other people have said it's good, but you don't, right. And you're going to have it for a little while and you're going to sell it for way less than you paid for it, right?
Yeah. Love it. All right, my man. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks.
So your name and where you are, please, sir. That's why it's some people are like Atlanta, some people
Right.
like Solomon Brothers. I don't care. Just as a reference point, your name and where you.
John Pietrohita, and right now I'm in this chair.
That's perfect. That is a chair. I will corroborate. That is a chair. All right. So we are talking about watches, and it's a very personal thing, but I also see it's something that binds a lot of people together. Let's start with the philosophical. What got you into watches? And at this moment, why are you in an event like this, bringing so many different watch lovers together?
Fair enough. So for me, in like the late 90s, I was wearing a lot of kind of like Timex, Iron Man, Casio kind of things. And then if you remember, leading up to the turn of the century, Y2K. So at that point, it was like,
Glitched because they thought the clocks were going to all turn over and the world
Right.
was going to end.
exactly. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, all right, so is my watch even going to work after Y2K? I don't know. So then from there, I was like, why don't I just get a watch that's been, working since like the 50s? So I dove vintage. I went vintage hard, and I was in vintage watches for a long time.
Yeah, and that was the right time because the
Yeah.
80s, the quartz crisis, a lot of these brands didn't know what to do in panic. 50s, 60s was really the heyday. A lot of the watches today, in the Rolex and the Speedmaster,
Yeah.
all came from that generation. So
Absolutely. So, so I was getting stuff from like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Hilton being my favorite of the vintage brands. At the time, yeah. So they bought Buren, who was a Swiss company, and then they got bought out by the Swiss, ironically. So then I would say probably like early 2000s is when I got kind of like my first modern watch, which was a Tissot, which I got in Geneva. And then for a while there, that was kind of like my one watch. I wasn't, too much into the collecting at that point. And then probably around 2010, I got kind of back into it. And then from there, just kind of like more the online watch forum communities grew from there. And then from that, I am a moderator of a online watch forum group. So we find the best deals for watches all across the internet and share them with our group. Yeah. So we find stuff that's on sale anywhere.
a deal,
Right.
then it's usually a wash.
Fair
But that
enough.
being said, if it's something that you're passionate about, then you're not wasting time.
Exactly.
So that's a lot of collecting and a lot of different things. Is there a moment that stood out as the moment that you're like, this is something that I want to do, or a watch that you have that made you kind of be like, oh, okay, this is the right thing for me?
Interesting question.
That's how you know this is not free can.
Yeah.
Nobody can answer this one.
Yeah. This is one you have to kind of mull over. I would say it's something that had kind of grown. Again, because I had that kind of history with a lot of vintage watches, I was getting to the point where it's like, there's upkeep, So I was like, maybe I want to kind of, move into more modern watches and stuff like that. And then being part of groups, you're exposed to a lot more. So then, so that's kind of where I started kind of doing collecting. And this was also around the same time that micro brands started kind of flourishing. And that was exciting because they were doing stuff that the major brands weren't because they could.
Because they could listen to their consumer base
Yeah.
and make things quickly, not have to worry about corporate America. So we're going to go back to when you were collecting those watches from the 50s. What advice would you give yourself now back then that may have changed the way you've collected it, or just going to do the exact same way?
I would say probably if I'm telling myself back then to get stuff, I would definitely have them I would have me at that time get more higher end brands and not be scared to buy, at that time might have been like $1,000 Rolex, vintage.
You also understand supply of
Right.
economics of it, or it felt like it was, wait a second, if I do this, I can't buy 20 years tonight. This is a problem. I don't know what to do here.
Whereas, now it's like, that's a $5,000 watch.
Giancarlo Roselli, and I'm at Solomon Brothers here in Alpharetta, Georgia.
All right, Giancarlo. So you run the Atlanta Watch Society. You started it yourself. Tell me a little about that journey. What got you to that point, and what's the most rewarding part of it?
So I moved to Atlanta from New York City about 5 years ago.
So you have to make your own assumptions about New York City.
Queens,
Okay.
Whitestone, and Astoria.
Oh, wonderful.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Italos.
6, woo, and he was paying $4,300 a month.
So what made me start it is I've always been involved in watch community since, I lived in New York City. I had been part of some groups in New York. When I moved here, there was a couple of groups, but it was COVID, so things were dormant. And I've always been the type of person that likes to start things on his own. I'm in sales. I'm in medical sales. So I've always been a networker, natural networker. So I started a Facebook group. and reached out to some folks that I knew from other Facebook groups. I had been part of a YouTube channel years before that was actually based in Astoria at Kaufman Studios, the Urban Gentry channel, which is a pretty popular YouTube channel. Yeah.
The Belova's.
The Belova's right there. I grew up right 5 minutes away from there. Amazing. Amazing. So, yeah, so I decided to start my own thing. I knew some people in the watch community. I knew several brands, some brand representatives, heads of marketing. I had gone to Switzerland a couple of times on a couple of manufacturer tours. So what I decided to do is start the group, reach out to the community here, and then start reaching out to brands to come sponsor events with, the collectors that we had who were attending. So it really just started from like 5, 6 people, 5, 6 friends that I made here that were watch collectors here in Atlanta, to now we have about 500 members on our member list. And we average, it depends on the event, but we average about 70 to 100 folks per event. And we try to do RSVP, because if not, then we have, all 500 show up, right? There's a lot of watch nerds in Atlanta.
You see, did they know Atlanta? And is it a stamp on the map?
I'm definitely proud to say that they know Atlanta now, right? I think we helped with that, definitely, by bringing in a lot of brands that had never been to Atlanta before. You see it now, too, in Buckhead. Many brands are coming to town that had never been here before, like Vacheron. AP is not only opening another boutique, but they're actually opening up an AP house, which is something that you don't see, let's say, 10 years ago in Atlanta. You don't see that, right? So other brands like IWC, a few others are really starting to come back now, thinking about coming back. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I think that it's really become now a destination, but it wasn't always. So when I was telling brands about Atlanta, some of the brands that didn't know us, they were a little, I don't want to say reluctant, but they were uncertain. But they gave us a chance. Brands like Oris really helped us. Brands that we already knew. I've had a long relationship, great relationship with VJ Geronimo, the president of Oris North America. And he helped really with a lot of it too.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's unpack a little bit. So obviously there's a lot of brands all over the place. In your own personal way, what do you think is the most important thing for watch brands to differentiate themselves from each other?
Well, I think the most important thing for any watch brand is to embrace the community. The watch collecting community is extremely important to them. That's why I love Oris so much, because Oris is the type of brand that embraces community. They travel to see the community. They want to educate their collectors. They want to meet their collectors. I think that's the most important thing that any brand can do. In an unpretentious way. Correct.
Everyone's got the list.
Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter.
Very, very important.
You got to meet in person.
So, VJ and everybody, this has been awesome. We have a lot of brands. There's micro brands. There's established brands. What advice, if you were to start your own watch brand and you were to go in with what would be the first 3 rules that you establish if you were in your own watch brand right now?
I think definitely understanding your supply chain, right? So that's extremely important in this day and age, right? So knowing where your production is happening, right? So you could be transparent with your future customer. Correct. If you're going to put your name on it, you want to know where it's made. You want to be able to represent your brand and be proud of it, right? I think that's 1. 2, I would definitely, again, I go back to community, really embrace the community, get out there, attend these watch shows, these watch events like Wind Up in New York, Watch Time. Get to meet the collectors so people get to know your brand. And I really just think, make cool, excuse my language, make cool shit. Make cool shit that people really want. I think really listen to what collectors want. Correct. That's the good thing about being a micro brand. There's none of that red tape, and you're able to do stuff like that. You're able to listen to the collectors in your community, right? And listen to what they want. Maybe they want a certain type of bezel. Maybe they want a certain type of movement.
They want to experiment.
Correct.
Just try. Make 100. Who cares? If it sells out, then you add a little bit more. And it's funny because I had this marketing role. I think the most important thing in the world is data is important. You need the magic behind it, and you've never created an emotional connection with data points.
Correct.
Be in the community, talk to people, meet with people, see what's going on. All right. So now the most tricky question. So before you started this journey in watches, what advice would you give yourself back then? Now, and it cannot be just buy whatever your heart desire. You got to keep it something with a little bit of flavor. But was there a piece that you should have bought back then? Was there something you sold that you shouldn't have? What advice would you give yourself back then?
I think definitely there's a lot of watches that I sold that I regret selling. Maybe a few watches that I didn't know about that I probably wish I would have known about, so I could have bought them. Josh and I were talking about a few FP Journes that, right now are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we could have bought them for $10,000, $8,000. Exactly. So you don't really know. I mean, just really have fun with it, right? Like enjoy Don't do it to make money. Don't do it to flip a watch. Collect because you really love it. Collect because you're really interested and you want to learn. Start your journey, but it's got to be your journey, not somebody else's.
Anyone that's false.
True. Correct. Always. Exactly. Thank you so much.